The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Bumblefoot. Bumblefoot.
Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make a lot of noise, but we ain't rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you. With you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
Alright.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat about us. We're with you. It's perfect with us. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's great to have you along for the ride on this Friday, June 16th. Saturday, June 17th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. Hope you had a great day, evening, and night. We are live right here in the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia as we are here 7 days a week. It's weird looking outside at 9 o'clock and still seeing the sun shining. Let's welcome in everyone listening in on our terrestrial radio stations. WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of the Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listeners. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. If you like our music, get your horns up for the guitar god himself, Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL. Formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy, Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. You can also follow us all over social media on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, Player.fm, TalkStream Live, and Stitcher. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. And if you go over to patreon.com for as low as $1 a month, you can become a member of the Spaced Out Radio crowd as well. Now, if you want to take part in this show, you have to do me a favor. You have to sign into one of our chat rooms by going on our website, clicking on Listen Live, go on Revolution Radio, Spreaker, the UPRN chat room, or you could join the Facebook group, the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you go on Twitter, just use the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. I will get to your questions and comments in there as well. So let's connect. Now, if you head to our website for $5 a month, you can become an official member of the SOR Space Travelers Club. You can also head to a Spaced Out Radio store. Pick up a t-shirt, poster, stickers. And if you have a weekend getaway planned for the fall, come on up to the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon. September 29th to October 1st in beautiful 108-mile Ranch, British Columbia, being held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort until July 31st. We are knocking 10% off those VIP tickets that you can get in our store. Also on our website, you can read up on everything paranormal with the Encounter Online, our news section put together by Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. My blog is in there as well. And if you've had an experience you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. We've been doing a lot of shows this week on conspiracy, and this time we are stepping into the dark-natured world of ufology, where stories and evidence alike are skewed in such a way where most of us don't know where to turn on what's real and what's just fallacy. Author Robert Collins is one of those people who continues to seek the truth when it comes to UFOs and the cover-ups that follow. Collins was a career Air Force serviceman serving in the field of avionics, ground communications, engineering, physics, and intelligence. After 22 years, he packed it in and decided to pursue the subject of UFOs full-time. In his many adventures within the Air Force, he was turned on to the world of UFOs in 1985. After performing some research, he concluded the government UFO cover-up was real and went to great lengths to uncover what they were covering up, which has spanned over 60 years. Robert Collins, your second appearance on Spaced Out Radio. How are you doing, my friend?
Well, it's late night for me, and as I mentioned before, I've had a little yogurt, so I'm kind of sleepy right now, but I'll live.
Yeah, I know the feeling. You know, maybe with me it's not yogurt. It's these damn 16-hour days that I put in 5 days a week, you know, all to live the pipe dream of what we call Spaced Out Radio here.
Well, good for you. I don't want to join you.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all, because sometimes it's kind of like, what do I do? What am I supposed to do? I'm kind of tired. I need sleep, but I got a show to do. I got 140,000 people that need their SOR fix on a nightly basis, much like you have readers who need their new book from you on a weekly, maybe nightly basis, however long it takes them to read it. So what else is new? We haven't literally talked since 2015 when you were last on the show.
Well, it's between my problems with Rick Doty and right now I've been assisting John Edmonds at the Stardust Ranch in Arizona. He's had a lot of critter problems. I've had critter problems here. I've had things in my house and doing things, and he's had about 100 times more activity than I have. So between those two, I guess mentally or otherwise, I'm pretty busy.
Yes, John and I have actually been communicating on Facebook a little bit, and we're trying to get him on the show because it's incredible the amount of action that is happening there. But before we get into that, I want our audience to re-know who you are. And you spent 22 years in the United States Air Force, and when you retired, you got the UFO bug, and you wanted to make that a career. Why such a change from the strictness and the discipline of the military to go into the field of ufology?
Oh, I don't know. It's like an obsession, like anything else in life. You're obsessed with the subject, and you stick by it. And I'm pretty persistent, and I don't let up, and I keep at it, and always finding new things to talk about or to discover or to update an existing book. And new things do come along, I should say. And I work with a guy called Tim Cooper, and he's been submitting FOIA requests to the CIA. And now he discovered a whole bunch of documents at the CIA that are in the basement of the CIA that all deal with documents that they won't release. The CIA. I'm trying to backtrack on this stuff right now because this is a lot of the stuff that's been going on, and I have to try to reorient myself. So he's found these. One of them was called Project Prophecy, and it's a highly classified TS code word. And he located it, tracked it down. In fact, he knew where it was, and the CIA didn't. And when he tried to get the CIA to release it, they agreed, and then all of a sudden, they said no, they weren't going to release it. He did that with 4 other CIA documents, all dealing with the historical backgrounds on UFOs and the history going all the way back to the 1950s. And on each count, the other 4 counts, the CIA was going to release them, and then they decided not to. So Tim was going through the wall, trying to get this stuff, and he couldn't. So we know the government has official classified documents on the UFO subject, and they won't release them.
Does that get frustrating as a writer? Because you're one of those writers, Robert, who presses for that truthful information. The big thing in the field of ufology right now is the big debate regarding disclosure and what is real and what is not. There seems to be a lot of disinformation out there, but you're one who goes for the purity of the story. How frustrating is that, knowing that the documents are sitting right there, you know they're there, but you just can't get your hands on them?
Well, it's actually the people I work with. Tim Cooper is one of those people, and I have one person in a whole group of people I work with. Each one does a certain thing. They all have a certain thing they do. Like on Right Pat, I've got a civil engineering contact who knows that base inside out. He's retired now, and he can tell you for sure, like I can, based on the evidence, those bolts are there, but they're just not active. Mm-hmm. I have other sources I deal with. I'm all of them well qualified in important positions with engineering or scientific backgrounds. I have Ron Pandolfi in Washington, D.C. at the Directorate of National Intelligence who supports me. I have key people that give me support and give me information, and that's the way it's been for 20 years. And I don't deal with just anybody and who thinks they might have something, but I try to deal with the best qualified people I can find.
When you are searching for that information, how do you know when you have your hands on a honeypot of truth?
Oh, well, at any piece of information, you cross-check it with 3 or 4 other sources. That's a given.
No, and I can understand that, but has anything ever come across your desk where you're like, well, this is crap, this is BS, oh, I got something here, I got to check this with my sources? How does that work for you?
Just what I do. I check it with the sources. Spend a lot of time on the phone, starting back in the 80s till now, with different sources and different contexts, and you're putting the pieces of the puzzle together. You're connecting the dots, and that's how you get to an answer. And you do that repeatedly, year after year after year after year after year, and that's what makes up a book. And it goes in this book. So this book is very detailed. It's very analytical. People complain about it because of some of the technical places in the book, which is actually over their heads. It's not a quick read book. You just don't whip through it. It's full of details, full of references and footnotes, and you just don't fly through this book.
There's a lot of speculation recently about another network who says that they have classified documents on MJ-12 aliens. Do you believe that these are true documents that have been handed over to them, or do you think that it's just a publicity stunt?
They may have some kind of documents. I read the one that recent one that was released, and it was an MJ-12 document, but it certainly didn't have the proper markings or top and bottom classifications on it. It didn't have dates. It didn't have a date in it. Dates on them. It didn't have. The only thing it did have was serial numbers on the edges of the document, but everything else was missing, and the document was impossible to read. It was very difficult to read. You couldn't even, for sake of argument, you couldn't even say it was a good draft. I mean, compared to the other MJ-12 documents, and some of them are drafts, it didn't even measure up to those MJ-12 documents.
Have you read real MJ-12 documents? If so, what are they like for our audience who's maybe never seen them?
Well, the Eisenhower briefing document's a good example. I mean, that's been authenticated by linguists, and it's been checked and verified multiple number of times. Stan Friedman will back it up, and that's the first document that ever came out and it was on 35 millimeter film.
So do you believe then that if any media outlet right now had real MJ-12 documents, how do you think they would get them? Do you think somebody would source it out or take the chance to do that?
Right now, the government, you're not going to get anything out of the government. The government is locked up tight. Nobody is saying anything. It has completely gone silent. This recent stuff sounds like a disinformation ploy. It sounds like they're sending out hoax documents because people are so desperate for any kind of information, and it looks like it's going to backfire. Because I read one of those documents, and I certainly wasn't impressed with it.
Well, this document apparently has something to do, actually a letter, and I didn't know aliens typed, but a letter from extraterrestrials to whomever it is addressed to.
Well, that should be a clue to tell you that the thing is not real.
So you would be okay with calling that just a publicity stunt?
I would call it more like disinformation. I wouldn't call it a stunt. I would just say it's just disinformation. It's an elaborate hoax, just like the other hoaxes we've seen lately.
Well, let's talk about that, because they're saying that they had an insider come on in and drop this in their hands, and you're saying with MJ-12 it's so locked up it would be impossible to do that. Could someone have from the inside?
MJ-12 is that name got changed in 2000. MJ-12 is no more.
So let's go on the disinformation outlet then. You think that there are people still trying to push away the idea that those papers exist, so they're going to throw something at the fringe or alternative media to see if they bite?
They've put out disinformation on the information I have in the exempt book. One example is the crystal rectangle, which is an alien energy device. Well, the DIA pumped out information on the same device. Instead of it being what's in the book, they described it as an atomic fission process. Well, the crystal rectangle is not run on an atomic fission process. It's runs on a hydrogen isotope principle, which extracts energy out of the vacuum. So in other words, the energy device here that runs these flying saucers is a vacuum device that extracts energy out of the vacuum. But the information that the Defense Intelligence Agency put out says it runs on fission. Well, that's a hokey document.
And you have seen these, have you not?
No, I haven't seen a crystal rectangle. The sources I've been in contact, I've seen it, and it's just like it's described in the book you have.
So I've only seen the triangles. I haven't seen the rectangles yet. I'd like to see that. I can honestly say. You know
which rectangle?
Well, you said the rectangles. In regards,
crystal rectangle.
Crystal.
It's a rectangular. It's about 9 by 6 inches.
Oh,
and inside this crystal rectangle is what they call a spherical reactor. And inside this spherical reactor is a liquid isotope of hydrogen. And around this liquid hydrogen are about 6,000 black circles. And when there's a load placed on it for energy, all these black circles aggravate around the liquid hydrogen and extract energy, because these H5 will extract energy out of the vacuum, deposit it in these black counterclockwise rotating black circles, and send it to an output port.
So getting back to the information about the whole MJ-12 document, you strongly believe that this isn't something you're going to find on Craigslist or a garage sale from somebody who is selling off their estate. You think that this is just a disinformation campaign in order to lead the fringe media and ufology astray once again.
Right. Sure. Don't you?
Well, I mean, I guess as a journalist, and that's what I like to call myself, I would love for something like that to fall in my lap. But how would I know? How would I know that it's the real thing? You know, I mean, I could sit here and pull the CNN and run with it without verifying, but that's not the way I would do things.
Sure. Well, sure. You would investigate it and then check it out, but then you'd have to have reliable sources, and you could spend years doing that, years and years and years, which is what Bob and Ryan Wood did with the MJ-12 documents. They spent 10 years checking those things out. Actually, more than that, probably close to 15 years before they could come to a conclusion that about 80% of them are real.
Wouldn't you just love to be on a fly on the wall just to see what it's all about?
No, not the wall that I imagine. No, I'd want to stay away from the Pentagon.
Yeah, that one might be a little bit tough to to get into. But, you know, are you surprised in all of your years of research, Rob, that there hasn't been a leak, so to speak, that has a bunch of this information come out? We were talking last night about Area 51 in regards to the same thing. Take away Bob Lazar, there really hasn't been anybody come out to discuss it. Are you surprised that this has been, in the field of ufology, so tight-lipped?
Yeah, this started back in 2005 when they re-oathed all the sources. All the retired people were given their security oaths all over again. Rumsfeld wanted to shut the whole thing down, and he started this whole process in 2005. And it's been a very slow process up till now in 2012. And then in 2012, Rick Doty says he was going to get out of the UFO business. Well, he didn't get out of the UFO business. He just got hired by DIA and shut up. So he wouldn't say anything. So since 2012, and then it's gotten worse. Now Rick Doty wanted to sue me. He was ready to file a lawsuit against me because he's claiming the stuff in this exempt book isn't the material he sent me. He didn't send me anything. All that material that was in the exempt book, that actually were the original interviews done by Bill and Jamie Shandro back in the 80s on Rick Doty. Doty claims he didn't send those to me, but he did send those to me in 1999 and 2004. He sent me a lot of material during those years, and that's the material that got in the book.
I just want to let you and the audience know that there is a major thunder and lightning storm brewing over my house right now, and it's actually rumbling the walls. So if we do lose signal, it is not aliens. It is not anything to do with the CIA, NSA, or anything like that. It's Mother Nature. So I just want to forewarn everybody, because this storm is all of a sudden rattling, and it's kind of eerie but cool at the same time. So I just want to set everybody up for that. We're going to get more into your book and Richard Doty later on in the show. But earlier you mentioned John Edmonds and the Stardust Ranch. For a lot of people who haven't heard about the Stardust Ranch, could you explain a little bit about that?
Well, I don't know. He's had the same activity. I've had these things in the house here. I've had these things. They come through the windows on you at 2 a.m. in the morning, and that's why I've got the sleeping hours I do. I go to sleep at 2 in the morning here, and I'll do this to. Well, tonight it'll be later, but anyhow, I go to sleep at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I get up about 9 or 10 in the morning. I do that for a reason, because then I'm in a kind of a semi-awake state for a couple hours between 2 and 4, we call it the bewitching hour, when they do most of their abductions, is between 2 and 4. And I've had five abduction attempts, and I've broken each one. So I watch. You can hear the blinds flutter. You can hear the blinds flutter. And then one night I sat in on the living room floor around 2 o'clock in the morning, and waited for this thing to come into the house. And sure enough, it showed up. It came through the blinds, and they looked like little brown sausages or cylinders. And on the front, it's kind of funny. On the front of the cylinder are 2 little eyes. And this is how they get into places. And this thing came through the window, came through the bedroom, came into the hallway here, into the living room, and I'm sitting on the floor waiting for it, and this thing comes right up to me and right in my face. And it realized who I was, and then shot straight up through the ceiling. Now that's just an example of the same stuff happens to John Edmonds too. He gets the same stuff.
Well, you know what? I remember the last time you were on, I believe, you mentioned the coins, to place coins on your table, because we were talking about my own experiences. And if the coins move in the middle of the night, you know you've been taken. Do you recall that?
No, I might have, but I haven't gone anywhere because most of it because I go to bed at 2 in the morning, and I'm pretty kind of semi-awake between 2 and 4 in the morning, and that's where most of the activity occurs.
Well, I can tell you, I remember a couple of months after you and I talked last, I went to bed after the show, probably about 1:30 my time, and I literally just started getting into sleep, and I woke up. And I was wide awake with every hair on my body, and I was like, holy cow, there's an alien in the house. You could just feel it, and you've had that experience, so you understand what I mean. You can just feel the difference. I grabbed my I grabbed my baseball bat. No. I grabbed my baseball bat beside my bed, and I walked to my door. And what gave me confirmation on this, everything was silent in my house. And right across from our master bedroom door was our laundry room door across the hallway. And my dog always slept in there. And my dog came to the doorway, he looked at me, and he looked down the hallway and stared. And I was like, holy cow, here we go. And it was weird because, as strange as this may sound, Robert, and maybe not to you, but to other people who are listening, telepathically, whether you believe in it or not, I don't know, I still question it, I could hear this E.T. in my head saying, he's awake, get me out of here, he's awake. And so I started telling him telepathically, come on over here, let's do this right now. Because the rush that I was getting off of that, back in my hockey playing days, you know, I like to fight. And the adrenaline rush that went along with fighting on the ice, I had that same adrenaline rush before this happened. Now, I never saw him, because a few minutes later, the entire energy in my house changed. But I could tell you this, I remembered what you said, between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, I stayed awake until like 3:48 a.m. because I was so freaked out that I was going to be taken that night. But I think I fought back. And the other thing I learned from you the last time you were on, and I still do this, I never go to the bathroom before I go to bed, because around 2 o'clock in the morning, I always wake up to go to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's one reason that they don't know when you'll be fully asleep, and when you're going to the bathroom all the time at night, which is what happens to me, they have no idea what to do.
So for people who are concerned whether or not they are being taken, what's your advice to them?
Mental discipline. All my sources I deal with, including John Edmonds. John Edmonds is an ex-Marine. All these abduction stuff, and the most of these people I deal with are professionally trained, trained in their own skills they had before they did this stuff. And Marines are very, very good at mental discipline. They're very mentally disciplined. And John Edmonds is very mentally disciplined. He's been through quite a bit.
So for a lot of people who don't know who John Edmonds is, could you explain who he is? You mentioned he's a Marine, he's a farmer.
Oh, just go to Google and look up Stardust Ranch, and that'll pull in enough information to tell you everything about John Edmonds.
And you've worked closely with him recently.
Well, I wrote back in 2009 when all this stuff started, and he was put on to me by a television show, a UFO show, and they referred me. What was his name? Smith. But anyhow, John Edmonds got referred to me by a show host. And so when I started contacting John, he started describing all these events that happened to him, and the window frames would vibrate and resonate, and these things would come through the house and get in the house through the windows. And he didn't know what it was, or what kind of technology this was, and he was asking me. And then he had killed a few of them back in 2009. He had killed a few of them, and he had blood and tissue samples. And those blood and tissue samples were sent to a guy named Dr. Levengood. Well, Dr. Levengood passed away back in 2014, so he's no longer with us. But he told John that these tissue and blood samples were of alien origin. And I took what the information that John had, he'd sent it to me, and I put it together and made a report out of it. And that report is up on the website, as well as other reports that we did and investigations we did in the process. So that I was supporting him when he was doing all this stuff, because he told me he had no idea what was going on or what these things were.
Mm-hmm. When you hear a story like John's, is it hard for you to believe right off the bat? What was the first piece of evidence or proof that he gave you that his story was legit?
Because I know other abductees, and one John Bobby Morrison, who was in Boulder, Colorado at the time. He worked for the government. He's an ex-Marine too. He worked for the government in NOAA, National Ocean Atmospheric Administration, and I was talking to Bobby, and Bobby had read my book, and then Bobby contacted me because of the book. So I had a background in this stuff before I talked to John Edmonds. And Bobby Morrison gave me a lot of details about what happened to him. So it's just, and then John Edmondson came in the picture. And so we started connecting the dots, and then I started having things happen here. So all three of us were taking notes and connecting dots and comparing what had happened in each case, and that's how things got together.
When it comes to the government, knowing what they know, knowing what you have learned, how in-depth is the field of ufology, or how important is it to the United States government to remain secretive on this?
Oh, Obama just in 2016 spent $36 million suppressing all the FOIA requests. He spent it's in the news. It was in the newspapers and then on the web. He had spent $36 million snuffing out all the individual FOIA requests that pertain to this subject. Or actually, I shouldn't say this subject. It pertained to all the subjects that the U.S. government didn't want the public to know about. And this of course, was one of them. 30, that's 36. That's $36 million in 1 year.
Are you surprised at how many government agencies know about the field of ufology and the phenomena in general, or is it pretty segregated behind the scenes in the black ops?
Everything's compartmentalized. There's individuals at each one of the agencies in Washington, D.C. There's only maybe a few. I don't know the numbers because I don't know how they're put together and I don't know how it's organized. But it's put together, and they know more about what's going on in this subject area than the president does. They knew more than what Obama knew, and they're the ones that you should talk to. But nobody's talking. Look at a good example is look what happened recently with Steve Barron. He's got an hour and 10 minutes of nonstop UFO footage from being in Las Vegas, from just shooting this stuff, and 1 hour and 10 minutes to 45 minutes to 50 minutes, and just watching this stuff and week after week, or in some cases day after day, and guess the media just ignores it as though it never happened. Now, how can you have an hour and 10 minutes of this stuff nonstop and it just gets ignored? It's beyond me.
Yeah, but the same could be said about what the media did towards John Podesta when he joined Hillary Clinton's campaign and was basically tweeting out that he couldn't get the information out.
And that's not the same thing. These are videos. When you get a chance, go online and look at Steve Barron's in Las Vegas, and then look at those videos. This is not the same thing. These aren't conversations. These are videos.
Well, let me ask you this then. How is Steve Barron's video footage to you any more credible than anyone else's who shoots a video of a UFO?
They don't shoot an hour and 10 minutes of it.
So for people who haven't seen that video, Robert, what does it look like?
It's hard to explain. It's got multiple objects that sit there and move back and forth, up and down, do loops around each other for an hour and 10 minutes. I don't know. You'll have to look at it.
Do we know what government agency is more into the field of ufology? Is it more the military side? Is it more NSA, CIA, or some other alphabet group that we don't even know exists?
That I cannot answer. All I know is what in the CIA and the NSA is very involved in, and the NSA is involved in snooping on everybody else and controlling everything else. But the biggest problem is the news media. The news media is refusing to cover this stuff, and they refuse to cover it. The only thing you'll see it is on these off channels, like history. You may see it on the History Channel or the American Heroes channel that does the ghost stories. You'll see it there on occasion. But for the most part, the mainstream just ignores this as though it didn't exist. The governments are ignoring it as though it doesn't exist. They are flat out just ignoring what's in front of them. Now, how do you explain that? I can't, unless they're just scared to death of it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think then that, in your opinion, that all types of visitation is of a malevolent nature? And that's why maybe they're covering it up?
I can't answer that question either. Some may be, some may not. I know I'm still here after 20 years of knowing about this.
That works. We're glad you're here, too.
Yeah.
So when you were writing your books and you're getting this type of information, do you have governmental sources that you have spoken to in regards to the information you get?
Yeah, sure. A lot of my sources have dried up. They just quit talking. Not because of me, but they just quit talking. They won't talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell you you find things up to a point, and then all of a sudden it just stops. It's the level of fear that seems to be controlling things, or the fact is something might happen, or they've been threatened. I know Rick Doty got read back into the program at DIA because to shut him up so he wouldn't talk. They don't want him talking. They'll do anything to silence things. So now he's out actively trying to discredit the book.
Tell us about your latest book that Richard Doty is trying to discredit.
Oh, well, I don't know what to say about it. It's exempt from disclosure. You can go online and look at it. When you get a chance, you can read it, but it's hard to explain every little nitpick and detail in the book. But it covers everything from starting with how things were put together originally, and then it goes into players. It goes to Dulles, Helms, and Doty, key players involved in the cover-up, and then it goes into facilities, and then it goes on to Area 51, and it goes into a lot of the facilities and the scientific stuff and the reverse engineering that's going on, and then it moves on to Area 51.
With Richard Doty, why has he been discrediting the information that he gave you for your book?
Because they want to silence the subject. They want to shut it down completely. They don't want anything out there. Why do you think connect the dots here? Why do you think all this UFO activity is going on out west, and Steve Barron is making all these videos, or other people are making videos? Is because they're coming out in the open and they're doing it through the public. They're using the public to get this out.
That has to be frustrating on your end, because I believe you interviewed Richard Doty for this book for quite a while, and
I didn't know. I never interviewed Richard Doty. I've talked to Richard Doty, spent a lot of time on the phone with him, but I never interviewed him.
But he was still giving you information at that time.
Oh, yeah. We were getting it over years, year after year after year. We were getting information, always starting back in 1987.
Mm-hmm. So why would he turncoat like that?
Well, I already explained that to you. It was the defense. They're going to do. They wanted to do anything to silence witnesses and silence sources. They are trying to shut everything down. At the same time, all this other stuff is going on.
But with the amount of experiences people are having out there, and the amount of time that people are researching, it's kind of hard to shut down the entire
the mainstream media. The mainstream media is not saying anything. They even call those UFO sightings out in Las Vegas meteors. How do you get meteors out of those UFOs? I don't know, but they do.
So you think there's almost a new mission in regards to the giant cover-up of UFOs? That would lead me to believe that they're trying to hide something or shut down the whole disclosure movement as it's picking up steam.
They will do anything to try to shut it down.
That doesn't give a lot of hope to people like Grant Cameron and Stephen Bassett, who are pushing for it, or even Stanton Friedman.
No, I don't think any of that disclosure stuff will. Personally, I don't think any of that's going to work.
Why is that?
Because because as we said, they're trying to shut it down and doing everything they can to do that.
I know, but I'm trying to get some information here as to why they are doing that. What are they hiding from the public? Or what do you think they're hiding from?
They don't want this out in the open. I don't know how else to say that. They don't want it out in the open. It is a threat to the government. It is a threat to power. You can, and anybody listening can imagine that stuff. They don't want it out. And they're trying everything. Why do you think they're trying to snuff it out?
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you
because
believe?
It'll scare. Well, no, it scares the living blood out of them.
Do you think it has to do with the fact that for so long they have hidden this, maybe taken the technology, maybe reverse engineered what they're doing out in Area 51? Do you believe that there's...
No. We're having a terrible time with reverse engineering. All the sources I've talked to, and I can only say up to 2004, they're having a heck of a time with reverse engineering. And all this politics stuff about Starfleets and how we have all these related with the tall blondes and the reptilians is a lot of fantasy. No such thing can exist because they're using the Biefeld-Brown effect, which won't get you into outer space.
Question from Eric coming through here. He is asking, how do you feel about the NASA feeds that supposedly caught UFOs but get cut off?
They didn't cut off?
No, they get cut off the minute something comes on tape.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's part of the process we just talked about. They're going to do anything to try to shut this off and shut it down. That's just part of the process.
So that leads to the follow-up. Do you believe then, Robert, that any type of disclosure would open the floodgates up to a lot of litigation against the government?
Oh, sure. Sure it would. Lawsuits. Sure it would.
Do you think the government then knows about all of the ET abductions that are happening?
Yes, very definitely. I think NSA keeps close track on everybody and anybody who's anything. And abductions is one of those.
Do you think the mainstream media is just making a mockery of this because they don't believe in the stories, or do you believe that they are being told not to report on anything strange in the phenomena?
Well, seriously, I don't know what's mentally wrong with them. How can NBC get out there in Las Vegas and say these things are meteors? That's what they said. They reported these. The local NBC station reported. What's the NBC broadcaster? What's his name? Nightly News.
Goodness.
Report to their headquarters that these things are meteors. They're meteors. These things are meteors. These UFOs on an hour and 10 minutes of video are meteors.
Do you believe then, going back in history, that this all started with Ike making a deal with extraterrestrials?
I don't know about that. I don't know if was any deal made. I know that these UFOs do stay back. They don't get aggressive. They're very careful when they appear or when they're not there. And that's the way it's been going. They're very careful. But you've seen a lot more of them than any time in the past. You've seen more UFO sightings recently than at any time in the past. And at the same time all that's going on, the government is trying everything it can to snuff it out.
Do you believe then that sightings and abductions are on the rise?
Yeah, oh sure. You just don't hear about them.
Everett is asking, and we got about 2.5 minutes before we go to break here. The brown cylinders you mentioned earlier, are they some sort of suit or vehicle, or are the beings like that?
Daryl Sims, who I talked to, said that these little brown cylinders are vehicles. They're like little. They kind of curl. What happens is these entities curl up inside these little brown cylinders, and they look organic. When you see them, it looks like kind of like a sausage, brownish-looking sausage, and it's organic, and it moves around the house. And this is the one that came up to me one night at 2 a.m. with, and as I said, the two little eyes. You could see two little eyes in the front of it. And as soon as it saw me, it just went straight up through the ceiling. But this is Daryl Sims. Says this is how they get around the house.
Oh, to play with that technology, my friend. To play with that technology just once. Wouldn't you just love to get your hands on it?
I don't think you know what to do with it.
True
really,
that.
They don't understand the materials. They still don't. This energy device, crystal rectangle. They recovered one of them in 1947, and they didn't know what it was till 1997. Edward Teller, before he died, identified it as an energy device, but it wasn't identified for 40-some-odd years, and they have no idea what the material this thing is made of. They don't understand really how it works. I gave the basic principles, but they don't really know how it really works, and they can't replicate the materials. They cannot replicate the materials on the domes of on the ones they've recovered that are in these underground Los Alamos facilities. The dome on the craft, the dome on...
Sorry about that. We are up against a break here, Robert. I apologize to you. We're going to be right back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this. Hour 1 is done. 2 hours to go on the mighty SOR. Stay tuned. Coming September 29th to October 1st, the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon. Hi, this is Dave Scott. The event will be held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Come join us for an amazing weekend of speakers talking all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Sasquatch, intuitiveness. Listen to great speakers like Miriam Delicato, Samantha Mowat, and the crypto guru Ronald Murphy. Get your VIP passes by going to spacedoutradio.com and clicking on the Paracon banner. Come to BC, where the paranormal is waiting for you.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, they're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Had a run-in with ghosts, maybe Bigfoot, or seen lights in the sky? Hi, I'm Mike Schmidt from the SOR Sightlines. I'm here to investigate your sighting. Head to spacedoutradio.com and fill out a report on the Sightlines. All your information is 100% confidential, and I will help you figure out what you've been seeing. File your report and let's find out the answers together.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest. From Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Oh, there's only one way to rock. Loud and proud. In high definition. Radio 702 rocks. Las Vegas.
Every Saturday and Sunday night, as Dave Scott wanders aimlessly in the wilderness, you can come hang out with me, James Tyson, in Spaced Out Weekend. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I'll take you along as we talk with some of the best experts in their fields. SpacedOutRadio.com is the place to find us. So sit down, relax, put your feet up, enjoy the topics like the paranormal, supernatural, intuitiveness, and so much more. Hope to see you there.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night and Sunday at spacedoutradio.com, Uncle Jimbo James Tyson and Elizabeth Anglin are back for Spaced Out Weekend, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. It's always a great weekend as we go live 7 days a week. I will be out of here after this. I got my bag packed, going to find my Zen and my Chi in the mountains of British Columbia. Sunday, I am actually going Sasquatch hunting. My friend Mike today found a print. he found a print, and we're going into that area to see if we can find anything more of the elusive Sasquatch. I will let you know on Monday how that goes. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are also live on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, out of Las Vegas, Renegade Talk Radio. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Potobromhydrosis. Potobromhydrosis is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect live with me during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Find me on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. You can tune us in on TuneIn, download this show and others on iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, Player.fm, and Stitcher. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including listening to our rock god, Ron Bumblefoot THAL. You can read up on the encounter online, join the SOR Space Travelers Club, and you can stop by our store, where we have t-shirts, stickers, posters, and you can pick up your VIP passes for the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon, being held September 29th to October 1st in lovely 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia, at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort. If you go to our website, go to the store, tickets are on sale for 10% off until July 31st. So now is the time to get them. Come hang out with the weird and the strange and the Spaced Out Radio crowd. We'd love to see you up here in beautiful central British Columbia. Tonight we have UFO author Robert Collins on with us. We're talking everything strange, cover-ups, what's being hidden from the public? What is not? Is the media involved? What's out at Area 51? Mr. Collins, welcome back for hour number 2.
Thank you.
Area 51 always has mystery to it. It has for years, decades, from not being admitted that it actually exists to only recently that happening in the last few years, to whether or not there are aliens and alien technology hidden in the S4 section, to planes like the F-117 stealth fighter, the B-2, possibly the Aurora. What do you think is happening out at Area 51 in the desert of Nevada?
I really don't have much of a clue except what everybody else has been saying, and of course what the sources have been saying, and that's been reported. That's covered in the exempt book, and it's just the usual stuff. But even if you would get out there and get on a hilltop, you wouldn't see much. Now, 90% of what's at Area 51 is underground. It is underground. You are at the politicians and the senators and everybody else in the world who makes visits to Area 51 will not see a thing. And if anything comes in that's classified, they put you in a hangar and close the curtains, so you won't see it unless you got access. But most of that stuff at Area 51 is underground, just like at Los Alamos. Good 90% of what's at Los Alamos is underground. You will not see it, and they do that for a reason.
Do you think that most of the technology that they are trying to hide out there is of our own, or do you believe that there is some sort of ET technology out there, if you were to give your personal opinion?
Would you see how big the chemical dump area is at Area 51. I think everybody sees that, and workers getting sick from all the chemicals at the dump. Well, the best estimate is they're looking for new materials. They're testing each and every and different types of materials for use in whatever aircraft or whatever they have in mind, or they're interested in using it to reverse engineer UFOs. They could be using it for that too. Testing all types of materials to try to replicate the alien metal, which they cannot do. At Los Alamos, they can't do it. They have no idea. The metal, as the guy at Los Alamos told me back in 2004, is not made on this earth. They can't replicate the metal.
From your sources and who you've talked to in regards to Area 51, now we do know that they keep it very secure. We do know that if you go out and you travel the legalized roads, if you could call them that, around the facility, that the camo dudes always are watching. They have cameras absolutely everywhere, staking people out and making sure that nobody crosses the line. And, then there's the scary signs that say, authorized use of deadly force will happen if you cross the line. It is a scary, remote place in regards to it. Have you ever been out there, and have you ever been able to talk to anybody who's seen more than just what the public can see if they do a drive-by by the black old mailbox?
No, I've never been out there, and I really, honestly, have no desire to go. I can cover a lot of Area 51 just sitting behind a desk here. And the sources I've had, and even the ones on S4, I've gone through a lot of the details on those, and it didn't take a trip to Area 51 to discover that.
Have you ever talked to anybody who worked out there?
Yes. Yes, they would give me details on the aliens they kept there in an underground facility. There was that Burrish story on the J-Rod, on a sick J-Rod, is a fake. It's a fake story. J-Rod was never sick, and some information on the propulsion systems, and some on the behavior of a lot of the behavior of the aliens. They said never had any problems with them. The visitors they kept in these underground facilities and were extremely well behaved. But I got some information, but not a whole lot.
Are there more people talking about Area 51 than what we know about? I mean, we talked earlier in hour number one about Bob Lazar. Are there people who can confirm his story that you have talked about?
Well, the Bob Lazar's story is based on magnetic propulsion ideas of using magnetism for getting UFO propulsion. Well, it doesn't work. UFO propulsion doesn't work on magnetism. It works on it's a functional anti-gravity system, and it involves superconductors, which, as the Los Alamos source had told me, they have no idea how it really works. I mean, as described, it's a very complex system, and they have no idea how it really works, and that's what they're working on. They had the saucers out there that Bob Lazar saw. Those were prototypes, but those prototypes never worked right.
So you believe that Bob Lazar was an actual employee of Area 51?
Oh, he was, because a guy named Gene Lakes was in charge of security out there at Area 51, and he told me Bob Lazar was on the access list.
It just seems with Bob, they were so quick to try and discredit him in regards to what he did there. I mean, by going as far as even, stealing, if we could call it that, his college credentials. That's going very, very far, to say the least, in order to scare someone off without killing him. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Are you surprised that he survived?
No, because they were what he was getting was when he got those tech manuals on at S4 on the propulsion system, all those manuals were fake. They weren't based on how these craft are propelled. So he was no threat to them. And all he could do is go back and tell stories. He was not a threat.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he worked on the reverse engineering of spacecraft?
No, because if he had, he wouldn't have described it the way he did.
So could we then say
he was a good the way I been able to figure it out is that he was a good patsy. He was a good patsy. He was given certain things and shown certain things, and then turned loose on the world to tell a story.
So do you think Bob Lazar then was more of a disinformationalist rather than someone who was an insider?
No, not in the way he if he was, he didn't do it deliberately. He was just telling everybody what he knew or what he read. Now, what he saw is true, but what he read in those tech manuals was false.
And how were you able to prove that what he read was false? Because he seems convinced it was the real thing.
Because the system, the gravity machine that he has, won't work. It doesn't work. It won't do anything. It doesn't levitate. It won't work.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned J-Rod. There is some speculation to who J-Rod is and whether or not he was an extraterrestrial helping out the United States military and the scientists out at Area 51. I have heard that he was a transfer. I have heard that he was one of the survivors of Roswell. Who is J-Rod to you?
J-Rod was, now this is what I understand. J-Rod was part of a special program. I don't know where J-Rod came from. All I know is I was told that he was helping the government people out there with reverse engineering. And the program terminated in 2002. So after 2002, I don't know where he went.
The word that I heard, and I don't know how believable this is, was that he escaped. Didn't like it and escaped.
Well, I don't know.
Are there other, as far as you know, aliens walking around or working at Area 51 in conjunction with human scientists?
Could be, but I don't know of them. I don't know.
Have your sources ever told you, in regards to aliens at Area 51, how many there are? And have you... I realize you can't vet that source. You have to take them at their word. But have we had, or have you heard reports of multiple ETs helping out man there?
We had EB 1, 2, and 3, and J-Rod, the ones I know about. EB 1 was recovered at Roswell. And EB2 came in 1964, and EB3 came in, I think it was 81.
Okay. Do we know where they're from?
No, I sure don't. Most of them are Zeta Reticuli is the one that's brought up most often, but they do come from other systems, but I don't know what those systems are.
It's kind of weird to think, and so sci-fi to think that humans are working along with aliens on human/ET technology.
I can't answer that one.
Man, I don't know. I mean, I guess here's the big question. If we have or had extraterrestrials helping us with ET technology hidden at S4 at Area 51, why do you think that we have had such troubles reverse engineering then, if we were getting help from aliens?
That's a good question. I don't think we're getting very good help.
Wonderful. They sent us the bottom of the barrel, is what you're saying.
I just think that was the way it was, and that if you want it, you got to figure it out. So I don't think the help we were getting was really help. I think they were doing something, but I don't think they knew a lot more than what they were telling us.
Do you think then that Area 51, because of its popularity, still holds as many secrets as it does, or do you think they've moved things out to Dulce, Dugway, back to Wright Pat, or maybe some sort of hidden air base up in Alaska where they could hide things very, very easily?
I think I just said a while ago that everything's underground. Everything got moved underground.
Oh, to be able to go in there one day. We got to sneak on one of those Janet jets. That's what we need to do, Robert. We need to sneak on one of those Janet jets.
Good luck.
We'll put on a fake mustache and we'll just make a run for it. We'll make a run for it.
Right.
I don't think we'll get far.
Yeah.
No, I'm not taking that chance. I'm way too chicken. And I'm not fast. Everett wants to know, why show someone a real UFO and then give him fake data to reverse engineer? This is in regards to Bob Lazar.
Oh, well, Bob Lazar was never involved in reverse engineering per se. He was just there. He was a technician. They moved him around. I think he went over to Tonopah for a while. I think he was working over at Tonopah. He never was directly involved with the reverse engineering. Those were other people.
Are you surprised then? And I asked a similar question earlier, but I'll re-ask it this way. Are you surprised then that nobody besides Bob has come forward publicly with so many employees there over the years?
Yeah, it's the attitude. It's the attitude of they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to discuss it. They don't want to talk about it. And that just seems to be the way it is. And as I told you, the government will do handstands and anything they can to try to cover this stuff up. In the meantime, the aliens are out there showing off. So I don't know. Guess who wins? I don't know. Who's going to win?
I'm wondering.
I don't think that anytime they desire, they can go and fly over Washington, D.C. or go over New York City and put on a show that nobody will forget.
Do you think the employees, whether it's at Area 51, Dugway, Dulce, wherever it could be, probably have to sign a contract that maybe somewhere in the fine print says your family and you could be in trouble if you open your mouth? I mean, there's probably a life sentence somewhere on that paper if you spill the beans.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They still engage in all the threats. The threats are there, and either written or otherwise. Yeah, sure.
Catherine is asking, How do you think, Robert, private space companies fit into the narrative when it comes to space travel if all of this is going on with aliens?
Oh, all the Monsanto. Monsanto's a good example. All the major corporations in the U.S. have some stake in this alien technology because the profits would be enormous if they could reverse engineer it and, of course, sell it. But they have to be able to understand it before they can even do that. Well, Monsanto is one that's very involved with alien technology and alien hardware. They have a storage area that's probably a size of a good-sized warehouse, kept in a vaulted warehouse, waiting for our technology to catch up. But they're very anxious to reverse engineer it because that's money.
How many spaceships do you think we are carrying or hiding at Area 51 or other bases?
Oh, I would roughly actual recoveries. There's quite a number, and again they're kept in underground facilities. The ones at Los Alamos were underground because the Los Alamos source told me back in 2004 that one of the craft they recovered was built before the Wright brothers discovered flight. Wow. They have quite a number. I'd hate to guess, but they have quite a number.
Is it the materials that are used or being used by the extraterrestrials that is causing the problem? Because we just can't recreate the material?
The only way to get the reverse engineered craft, the reason we can't get them to work right is because we can't get the propulsion system right, and we can't get the materials right. The materials are such that if they're not made on this planet, we cannot replicate the materials because we have no clue as to how their atomic structure really is put together, how their lattice structures, the atomic lattice structures of the metal, is actually how the things bond and how they're put together. They may be composed of several different composite materials that we have no idea how the composite materials put together. So they can't get the materials, and then they can't configure the propulsion system right. And the source was talking to me. He said if I try to explain it to you, you wouldn't understand it. So I said, okay.
Does that have to do with element 115 that we heard Bob Lazar talk so much about?
No. It's got nothing to do with element 115. The stuff that you hear from Bob Lazar again is hokey stuff. He was given fake, phony information, and that's why they weren't. That's why they didn't worry about him.
Very understandable. Very understandable. Got another question from our audience coming in. If the government is so actively trying to cover up this activity, are there more reports now than ever of men in black?
That I can't answer. I know John Edmonds had an encounter with those men in black last year. And that was, as far as I know, that was his only time that ever happened. They came and they left. I think that was on one of his shows. I think it was on the Travel Channel, where they did a show on the Stardust Ranch. I think that was the Travel Channel where he did that interview.
Are you a big believer in the Men in Black phenomena?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What then do you think they are? Do you think they're human? Do you think they are of alien descent or a mixture of both?
Could be, anywhere between human and a cybernetic organism.
Do you think, though, that they are there to harm or just to warn people, to kind of put that scare into people?
I guess just to scare them.
With everything that you have gone through in this field, do you have you ever been compromised, had your phones tapped, computer hacked, or anything along those lines?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we had phones were tapped over the vaults at Wright Pat, and that was way back in '97 and '98. Where, by the way, Rick Doty did the line tap, and we found out that the line tap was coming from DOD, the Pentagon, and the room number in the Pentagon was room number 77 in the Pentagon, where the line tap was coming from for the tap on my home phone. Of course, I was in Tucson, Arizona at the time when that happened. But yeah, we had they used a Tektronix line checker, which checks for wiretaps on phone lines, and found the taps, and it was over the Wright Pat vaults. So they were very much into tapping. Now today they just suck up email by the millions, and that's how they do with the intercepts now. They don't bother with phone taps anymore. They just suck up the email.
Do you feel, though, that when it comes to the Men in Black, that they are targeting specific individuals? Because we have heard people who are on the inside, writers such as yourself, other people having visitation, but they've also seemed to visit multiple abductees as well. That could occur. I don't know. The only person I know recently was John Edmonds. Said he got visited, but most of these people that this happens to are isolated. They work alone, and they don't have much outside contact with anybody. It makes them very vulnerable to intimidation. It made me very vulnerable to intimidation when I was sick last winter. And I was getting harassed like you wouldn't believe by these things in my bedroom. These cybots get into your bedroom, and they start making humming and buzzing noises around your bed. Your bed actually starts humming or buzzing, and then you know they're around. Or what happened last December 31st, I had 2 females show up in my bedroom, fully human females, and I was sick as could be with sky-high blood pressure and heartbeat. And these 2 females, one was right over the top of me, one was on the bed next to me, and they just came out of nowhere. Blondes, 2 blondes. Do you believe that? Well, I know it. I know it's never happened to me, my friend. Unfortunately, it's never happened to me.
Well, it wasn't. It was just I was just extremely sick, and I guess somebody was taking care of me. But at the same time, these 2 females showed up. I had the cybots, the cybernetic organisms, just bugging the heck out of me, running up and down my bed, and I just smacked the bed and told them to stop it. And it stopped.
A couple questions coming from
Benny. That's a story to take someplace.
Well, we can go there. I mean, what do these human aliens look like? Because there's not a lot of people have seen them.
They just look like. Well, I don't know what they were. They could have been hybrids. I don't know what they were. But they were both knockout blondes. I mean, they were the most attractive blondes I've ever seen.
And what were they doing? Just standing there?
They just because I was running my heartbeat was 140 and my blood pressure was 215 or 215 over 115.
Wow.
And I was pretty sick.
How long were they in your room for?
Oh, I'd say the whole thing lasted maybe 15 minutes at the most.
Had you ever seen beings like that before?
No, it's a first ever. There was another case in Australian case that occurred in 1989. With that guy had 2 blonde females in his room, his bedroom.
Once again, I'm still waiting.
So the best, and anyhow, they were the best looking. I've had blonde girlfriends, and they were the best blondes I've ever seen.
I've never dated a blonde. I hate to say that. As much as I like the blondes, never dated a blonde.
Well, I mean, the stereotype fits.
I bet. Besides those ones, what's the closest you have encountered an extraterrestrial?
When they tried to abduct me, I had one little side body in my face back in 2011. Right there in the bedroom at 2 a.m. He was staring at me, and I was staring at him. He ran, and I stood there. So he ran first. I didn't.
Let's get to a couple questions from our audience here. This one coming from Claudia. She is asking, it seems aliens can use thought to drive their ships and travel. Do you believe that they use some sort of crystal power as well?
Not to my knowledge. I know it's a lot of telepathic stuff, and anybody can learn how to do telepathy. And if you want to learn how to do it, I was told by a friend, of course you don't know him, Bobby Morrison, and that guy at Colorado at National Ocean Atmospheric Administration there, who had all these experiences that John Edmonds had. He would tell me this stuff, and then I wouldn't know where to go with it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, though, that in regards to the way the ships are formed, that, I mean, let's face it, there are crystals on this planet that seem to have differing powers of whether it's healing or energy or something along those lines. And abductees and contactees have said that they have, when they've been aboard ships, that they have seen some sort of crystal-like objects on there. Do you think that's just above what we have learned by now?
That I can't answer. I don't know when they're reporting that stuff, what they're seeing, or what is it? I don't know the answer to that.
It's one of those speculative questions I get, and it's hard to really figure.
You can't nail it down. There's no way to nail that down.
Bill has a question here. He says, and this is getting back to Bob Lazar for a second. What makes this guest so sure that Bob Lazar was fed misinformation, since Bob was able to describe in detail what he did and what he saw?
That's because the information they gave him was detailed. That gravity wave amplifier was part of the disinformation they fed him. But they wanted to feed him all that stuff, and he wasn't going. And if they fed him that stuff, he wasn't going to be a threat to anybody, and they could just turn him on the world and tell a story about what he saw, without anything to verify what he had actually witnessed. But he did describe, at a certain time of the day, who was that, George Knapp? Or
yes.
Somebody.
Yes, George.
He took somebody on a trip. Yeah, he took somebody on a trip through the canyon areas, and at a certain time during the day, you could watch this saucer come up from the canyons. Well, this is what he saw. Because they were doing testing, you could watch this saucer come up, and it would sit there and just hover. And I think it was. I'm not sure. I don't think it was. It was some friend of his, or maybe it was George Knapp that saw this. But he saw this hovering saucer. So there was proof that they were actually had saucers, reverse engineered craft that were actually working on and testing. But they didn't work very well because they were, as they said, they were having problems with the materials and the propulsion system. Mm-hmm.
Let's get to Everett's question. He is asking, what movies, in your opinion, as we bring Hollywood into this, have gotten the closest to being accurate? And do you think, Robert, that the producers or directors had any help from government or alien sources?
They were told, well, the first one back in 1952, the day the Earth stood still, that was motivated by the government. They did a remake of that movie too. That movie is accurate because that event actually did happen, but not quite the way the movie says. And Close Encounters of the Third Kind, another one, which is pretty close to what actually happened. But then again, the movie was not as accurate as the real. The real event for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that event actually took place in the northern part of Area 51 in a isolated location when they had the exchange. And we had 12 members go on board their craft. That was done in, trying to think of the year. That was 1964. Or I'm sorry, that was 1965. They did that at Close Encounter type of exchange took place in 65, where they accepted 12 members of our team, and they left EB2 here as an exchange, the exchange member.
Did those humans ever return?
Yeah, in 78. They were debriefed, and they were I can't remember all the details, but they were debriefed and kept isolated for over a year. I think they were isolated for over a year. But they went through an entire debriefing, and then I think they were, when they split them up, and they were kept in different locations, isolated from each other, so they couldn't talk to each other, didn't know where the other one was, so they couldn't exchange information or get in contact with each other.
So,
but the last member of that team died in 2002, I think.
Mm-hmm. Were they kept in isolation pretty much for the rest of their lives, or were they allowed to go back out into the public?
Well, no, they could go out into the public, but by that time they didn't know where each of the other members were, so they couldn't do it as a team or two at a time or three at a time. They had to go on their own and telling their story to whoever'd listen. But then nobody believed it. Nobody believed that story.
How many of them ended up in some sort of psychiatric facility?
That I don't know.
Have you ever had a close encounter of the third kind?
Yeah, in your bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah, that, well, I've had a ship land very, very close to me, within 150 yards. And I'll tell you, if it happens again, and I don't know if it ever will, but if it does happen again, I will get closer to it. Not.
I had one in my backyard here in August 2012 that was a lot closer than what would you say, 150 yards?
Yeah.
100 yards? Yeah, it was right in my back kitchen window. Right out there in the trees on the park, just beyond my car in the parking lot, and it was sitting there hovering in the trees.
How big
and
was it?
It just flashed. Oh, I don't know. It's a kind of. It was hard with the bright lights it had on. It had white, blue, and I think it was white and blue lights, and it was flashing the lights all around. For a while, for a few minutes, I thought it was a helicopter, but it wasn't a helicopter. I could see the metallic surface on it. It had a grayish metallic surface, and it just sat there and floated. And it just floated back and forth, like UFOs usually do. They just float on you. Then the floating is the anti-gravity. The anti-gravity makes it float. And it just floats. And it was just sitting there flying, and I watched it for 20 minutes. I guess I could have walked up to it, but I didn't want to take any chances. I didn't want to get abducted. And as I know, if I got too close to this thing, I would disappear.
I know that feeling all too well.
So I kept my distance. Eventually, after about 20 minutes or so, it just disappeared, just whipped up and disappeared. But that was in August 2012.
See, my close encounter happened in April 10th of 2014.
Okay.
And then 5 days after that is when I saw my first extraterrestrial at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, who was about 10 to 12 feet tall. That was interesting.
Oh, yeah, that must have been a neck stretch.
I don't know what the hell it was to this day. All I know is that I just stood there and stared for about 15, 20 minutes, telling my friend who was an ET contactee, what the F is that? What the F is that?
Yeah.
And
so what did he say?
Well, she actually... I'll fill you in on the story. Like 5 days after that, I met this young lady named Samantha Mowat, who had been a lifelong ET contactee. And my incident with the UFO happened on a friend's farm property. And I was showing Samantha in the back field where the UFO had landed. And she all of a sudden picked something up that her and I had to walk into the forest behind the house. And when we walked back in there, we came to this clearing, and she stopped me and she goes, "Dave, I don't want you to panic or anything, but I want you to look that way," pointing north, "and tell me what you see." So when I looked north, about 200 feet in front of me, there it was. I still don't know how to explain it. I really don't. But there it was. And
anybody else with him? Yeah.
Well, I only saw the one being. Samantha actually saw another one that was probably 5 to 6 feet tall. It was a gray, but in a tan color. And she started telepathically communicating with this one. And they actually invited us over to say hello. And this is where it got a little strange. They said, "But we are concerned about the man's health." Because they knew deep down I was crapping bricks. You know, I'm 40 years old at this time, Robert, and nobody told me how to prepare for aliens standing in front of me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And Samantha actually started walking over to them, and I said, "Don't you leave me here." I said, "Because I'm not going back to the house without you." I said...
Where is this? Where is this?
This happened in Mission, British Columbia.
How far away is that?
From where I am, about 4.5 hours southwest.
Okay, so you were pretty much up country then.
I was about an hour and a half east of Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
you were in a very isolated area.
At where the farm was, yes.
Okay. Because those things usually happen in isolated areas.
Yes, and the weird part is there's two airports. You have the flight path coming east to west behind us in that town, okay, that is traveling to Vancouver. And in front, you have the jets taking off from Vancouver going west to east. There's also another airport very close that has a lot of air traffic as well, from civilian craft to airliners and even some military at times. And the skies were, anytime in the sky there, you could usually hear the buzzing of an airplane somewhere, but the skies were absolutely silent while this was going on. It was the strangest thing.
Yeah, sort of like a cone of silence.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the fields around the UFOs will create that cone of silence for you.
Yeah.
They block out any kind of sound.
It was definitely one of those scenarios that I will never forget, and I'm not going to lie, it screwed me up for a while, because you don't expect something like that to happen. You don't expect in the middle of the afternoon for something, to run into an extraterrestrial that's 10 to 12 feet tall. And then saying, hey, why don't you come on over and introduce yourself? I didn't know if they had a pot of coffee on board or what. I'm being facetious here a little bit. But there's a lot of people out there who've had that same experience. And, I was lucky enough to be able to hone a number of months later all of these questions that I have into Spaced Out Radio, and it morphed into what it is today, Robert. But a lot of people who have those experiences, they're so terrified that they pretty much give up on life because it's so altering. Have you ever talked with people like that?
Yeah, they kind of withdraw on you.
Mm-hmm. It's a huge, huge thing. Huge thing.
So what this thing was 12. The only things I know that are that high or that tall, your reptilians are that high or that tall, and this wasn't a reptilian.
Andromedans are known to be that tall as well, apparently.
What did they look like?
I saw the head. I saw the body, which was very thin.
What was the shape of the head?
Round.
And what about nose, ears?
I think I was in too much shock to get that picture. I'm replaying the event in my eyes right now, and to be honest, there's an alien group that was in a Texas abduction case. There were some aliens that were described by that guy, Daryl Sims, I think. I got the description from him. I have a picture of it here. I can send it to you. I'll look it up and send it to you. Those aliens look a lot like the one you're describing. Mm-hmm.
And this is a drawing. There was two of them in the Texas abduction case. And they are real lanky, they're real thin, and they're real tall.
I would like to see that. I
had
really...
big feet, and big. Their hands were real big. They had real long fingers. But they even apologized to the guy they were abducting and then said, "Excuse us."
And you know what? When I was having my little crapping bricks moment there, I can honestly say I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel scared of them per se. What I was scared of was knowing that this impossible moment in my life, Robert, was now possible. And I went through every scenario in my head, and I just could not pick out anything that was more unbelievable to happen to me than that moment. And it was something that absolutely rocked me, because you don't expect your life to change. You know, sure, I'm a believer in God and the devil, and, you know, I'm not religious, but I still have my beliefs. But when you have something that's supposed to be non-existent all of a sudden standing right in front of you in the middle of the afternoon when you're wide awake and understanding and clear knowing of what's going on, that one was a little hard to take. Not going to lie.
Yeah, here. I just found the picture, yeah. Yeah, they're pretty tall. Yeah, they got huge hands and big, long, elongated feet, and kind of small, kind of very small heads, bald heads, slanted eyes, nose. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
I would like that. We got
it right here. We got it right here on the machine.
Well, if you could email that to me, that would be absolutely great. And we only have about 35 seconds left before we have to take our final break of the night here on the Mighty SOR. We do have more questions for you from our audience coming up as well. They're going to get into this. They love this topic, so I'm going to just ask away here and make sure that they get what they need for answers as well. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio tonight. Our guest is author Robert Collins. We're talking everything to do with UFOs, cover-ups, strangeness in the skies. What are we seeing? We will be right back right after this break. Hope you tune in for hour number 3, because we're 2/3 of the way done. We're on our way home right after this. Looking for a great weekend getaway this fall? Hi there, this is Dave Scott. Come on up to the heart of British Columbia for the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon, being held at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Speakers from all over North America are coming to discuss Bigfoot, UFOs, ghosts, and intuitiveness for the 3-day event, September 29th to October 1st. For more information, go to spacedoutradio.com and click on the Caribou Paracon banner and book your tickets today. Come to BC, where the paranormal is waiting for you.
The SOR Sightlines is a place for you to find answers to your strange experiences. Hi there, this is Mike Schmidt. If you have had an encounter with ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, ETs, or anything else that doesn't make sense, head to spacedoutradio.com and file a Sightlines report. All information you give is 100% confidential, and I will personally help you find the answers you need. SOR Sightlines, your answers are a click away.
Have you got your Cosmic Passport? If you need one, tune in to Cosmic Passport on Spaced Out Weekend. This is Elizabeth Anglin, ET experiencer, spirit medium, and host of Cosmic Passport. Each weekend I'll be bringing you interviews and support from other paranormal experiencers, and the best in intuitive spiritual guidance from across the globe. It's all happening starting at 9 p.m. Pacific Time, midnight Eastern, on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with UFO Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is your medium, Joanna, from Spaced Out Weekend, 2 mediums and a large. I would love it if you would come and join us with host James Tyson every other Sunday on Spaced Out Weekend. Together, we will take your calls and your questions live. Our goal is to provide you with a positive outlook on deep questions that you may have. Questions regarding love, relationships, money, or whatever else is on your mind. Come and check us out at spacedoutradio.com.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
Did you know that Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi, it's James Tyson from Spaced Out Weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, you can join me and my guests for some great chatter about what's going on out in the universe, or even in that dark part of the basement you really don't want to go back into. Well, let's find the answers to your experiences together. So come on up to Uncle Jimbo's cabin on the weekend. For more information, look us up at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to anymore.
Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you along for the ride tonight. Tomorrow night and Sunday on the program, we have Uncle Jimbo James Tyson and Elizabeth Anglin, who are here for Spaced Out Weekend, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. I will be wandering off into the wilderness to find my Zen, my Chi, and maybe Sasquatch on Sunday. We're going into a hotbed of an area. Me and Mikey Smith, we're heading on out. He found a print today. May have found some scat. I know Mr. Skeptic on Twitter will like that. We may have scat samples, my friend. May have scat samples, but we're going to check it on out on Sunday morning. I'm looking forward to it. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on the United Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. Great to have you with us as part of your night. We are also live on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We'd really appreciate you sharing the show down there. I'm going to be on the morning show with Ryan here pretty soon. We're just setting up the date on when that's going to happen. I may have some giveaways for you down there in Noonan from Spaced Out Radio if you're enjoying the show. We're also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Podobromhydrosis. Podobromhydrosis is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect with me live during the show. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can tune us in on TuneIn. Follow me on Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Find us on iTunes, and our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. You can read up on our news section, The Encounter Online, put together by Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. And you can head to our Spaced Out Radio store, where we have some swag for you to pick up. Spaced Out Radio t-shirts. You can get a poster, stickers. You can also pick up VIP tickets for the first annual Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon, being held in 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia at the Spruce Hills Spa and Resort. Up until July 31st, you could get a 10% discount on your VIP passes, which will give you access to everything we do during that great weekend. Come hang out with the weirdos here at BC and Spaced Out Radio. We definitely want to hang out with you. For the final time tonight, we introduce author Robert Collins. We're talking everything to do with aliens and your questions as well. Robert, welcome back.
Oh, hello. I guess you're back again.
I am. And you are too, my friend. I've got a plethora of questions from our audience for you that I would like you to answer, if you don't mind, because we like to get their involvement.
Yeah, check your email now.
I will. I'll check that here momentarily.
Okay.
But while I'm checking my email, I'm going to get to Daryl's question here, and she is asking, did you know Ron Gardner, now deceased, who claimed he knew J-Rod the alien? Was he credible?
Oh, yeah. I think I remember that guy. Yeah, I'm not sure. I really don't know a lot about him. I don't know him. I can't really say, what he saw, so I don't know if he's credible or not.
Second part to her question, what do you think of Stephen Greer and his claim that the powers that be will stage a fake alien invasion to gain control of the masses?
Baloney. Stephen Greer is full of those kind of stories. The government is creating all the abductions that get reported and running around in these reverse engineered craft and abducting people. I mean, he's come up with that story too.
Jeff is asking, what needs to happen for disclosure, in your opinion, to take place, and do you think we will see it in our lifetime?
Yes. It depends. It depends on a lot of things. The government's not going to do it, that's for sure. Will the aliens do it? Could be. They might do it. They might just do it, decide to land on the White House lawn. Right now, they're making a lot of noise. There's a lot of sightings, a lot of videotapes. So they're doing something.
What do you think of Stephen Hawking basically saying that we shouldn't be sending out signals to try and find extraterrestrials because it could lead to the end of mankind?
It's too late. They're already here.
So why do you think so many scientists like Hawking refuse to acknowledge that?
Because they got blinders on. What do you say? The most renowned scientists in the world have got blinders on. They're obviously not looking at what we're seeing. So how can you miss that? But they do. Explain that? There's no way to explain that.
Let's get to
They're
Bill's.
just refusing to. They just refuse to accept the UFO evidence.
Why do you think the majority of scientists are really refusing that evidence? Do you think it's because places like SETI, places like the United States government, or whatever government around the world just continues to claw back? NASA continues to fudge film and photographs. Do you think that's the reason why they're not believing, or do you think it's just a stubborn attitude?
Yeah, stubbornness and just a refusal to accept what everybody else can see. I mean, how else do you explain that? That's beyond explanation. Why do people do what they do?
Right. Let's get to another question. This one from Eric. He is asking, how many races do you, Robert, know are here right now?
Trying to figure them. Last time I was told there are 9. 9 races. 9 races have visited this planet.
That doesn't seem like a lot. Compared to, some people are saying there's 50, some are saying there's up to over 100.
Well, sorry. I'm not in a race here.
No, very understandable. Getting to Daryl's question, she says, how many already control the government or are working side by side with them?
Probably next to none. The hybrids are hybrids. They don't fit in with the rest of the human population.
So do you think there is a giant hybrid population on Earth?
Could be. I know the underground facilities they've got are pretty big, from what I understand. There's what's that island off the coast of L.A.?
Catalina?
Catalina. Yeah, there's a underwater base there. Because my friend Bobby Morrison reported going there. That's one of the places he reported going to, and it's deep down underwater, and described the facility as huge. It's massive, and UFOs have been reported coming out of the water near Catalina. I think if you check the reports. But anyhow, that's one base, and they have a couple on the planet here.
So
they don't require doors. You don't require doors. You just go through the wall. So there's no entry way into these facilities. They just go through the mountain.
That's strange. That's strange right there. Let's get to another question here from Bill. Robert, how could you be so sure it was an alien craft you saw in your backyard?
Because I saw the surface of the craft. No motor noise, no nothing. Totally silent.
How big was it?
And it's, oh, that's a good question. With all the bright lights, it's hard to make that estimation because it was, must have been at least, 20 feet overall size. If I would put a circle around it, I'd say about 20, maybe 25 feet.
That's a pretty big craft to be that close to.
Yeah, well, it was right on top of me, but we had felt no threat. There was a guy. I had a witness to that guy next door, and a neighbor who was sitting there drinking beer, watching this thing.
Oh wow!
But there was no threat. It wasn't threatening at all. Very casual.
Claudia is saying, Robert, you don't seem to get very excited about abductions. Are we watching abductions or watching ships? Have you had, besides this close encounter, many other encounters with craft?
No, it's starting in 2011. I started getting, back in 2011, I got real excited. I've calmed down quite a bit.
Claudia has a follow-up question. How much longer do you think the government can keep denying aliens and UFOs when the population seems so ready for contact?
That is so unpredictable. All I know is the behavior, and the behavior says they're getting tighter and tighter when it comes to anything. They're trying to shut it down. As I said in 2016, Obama spent $36 million shutting down all the FOIA requests. $36 million. That's a lot of money.
Do you think they are shutting it down because of the fact that they are so much pushing the military-industrial complex to keep it going?
No, I think it's more fear than anything else. I think it's just a lot of fear, and there is the military-industrial complex. It is the priority program that these companies want to keep the technology to simply make money. It's just that simple.
Do you see then a day where, like you've said a couple of times on this show, that the aliens just may land on the White House lawn? Or is that just way too conventional of thinking that it would be that easy?
No, that would settle everything. That would say, if they did that, that would settle a lot of things. I mean, you can't cover that up.
Do you then think that we have been able, like a lot of people suppose, to build a secret space program where we have traveled further than what NASA admits to?
No, if we did, we wouldn't be spending $3 billion on the Orion rocket program.
Mm-hmm. Well, that money could
If
be
we had all that,
diverted.
if we had things like that, we wouldn't spend billions and billions every year on space programs that don't work right or wouldn't go anywhere if we had any such technology. I'm just using this common sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When it comes to the private market on space exploration, we've seen a lot of rockets blow up. We've seen a lot of failures. Elon Musk is having a hell of a time trying to get a rocket off a launch pad. Do you think that this is some sort of sabotage by the government to keep us on the ground, or maybe extraterrestrials?
Say that again.
Well, in the private race to get up into space, we see companies like Elon Musk, okay, and gentlemen like Elon Musk putting billions of dollars into rocketry in order to launch craft into space. But it seems like there's always some sort of catastrophic failure that they can't get off the launch pad. Do you think there is some sort of sabotage going on by the government to keep us grounded, or maybe the extraterrestrials?
No, I just think that the government will do handstands before they say anything. It's like the left doesn't know what the right's doing, or the left doesn't agree with the right. They're doing handstands to keep this stuff covered up, but I don't think they're sabotaging anybody. If they could get the collective consciousness of all those scientists and engineers working on the programs that Los Alamos and Area 51 are working on, we might have a starship. But if they keep it covered up, it's going to go nowhere. Instead, we could scrap all the rocket programs and build things that fly at the speed of light. I mean, that's just common sense, right?
So from your experience in talking to people, how far away are we from actually getting to that type of technology?
Right now, pretty far. We don't have the expertise, and everything is kept top secret, compartmentalized, and highly classified. And if you do that, you shut down all the research. You take people that could actually make a contribution to that, and you don't let them in.
What then are your thoughts on Robert Bigelow and his aerospace program?
Oh, I think he's a good guy. I like Bigelow. He's very interested in UFOs.
Do you think he gets a little bit of a bad name?
Given the chance, and you told him a few things, he might pump his money into a lot of things that he wouldn't normally do. But you've got to get this out to. You've got to give the public. You got to give the scientific establishment access to the technology for them to do anything. And the people out there, who have all the money, could actually do things probably more than what the government could do. You have all those scientific minds thinking about reverse engineering all this technology.
Right.
But that's not happening. But I'm looking at reality. Reality says they're trying to snuff out any kind of disclosure, and then you got all these UFO sightings going on. Just the opposite of what the government's doing.
Eric is asking, do you think that the Orion program could be just a smoke screen to hide black budget programs?
Well, you could say the shuttle programs was the same thing, but you're spending billions and billions. Well, how many billions did we spend on the shuttle program? You're spending billions and billions and billions on these shuttle programs, and now the Orion space program. Where are you going to get money? If you do this, where are you going to get money from? If you keep doing all this stuff and building all these rocket programs and doing all these things, where are you going to get money to work on the other programs?
Well, maybe that's what the CIA's heroin program is for, or cocaine running. They are the biggest drug dealer going on, so they say, allegedly.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to get into that one.
No, that's just me being way too conspiratorial. Everett has a question regarding Robert Bigelow. Do you think that he is in communication with extraterrestrials?
No, I don't. But he sure. I'm sure if they opened the doors, he would jump in.
What about his? Do you think Robert Bigelow gets a bad rap? Because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, we know he has an interest in the weird and strange, and he's got the money behind him. But there's a lot of people believe that his money has infiltrated and really ruined MUFON. And then with him owning, then not owning, then apparently owning again the Skinwalker Ranch, which has a lot of weird things happening. You know, do you think that he is a straight player, or do you believe that, you know, he's one of these disinformation people?
I think he's looking for the facts, but I don't think I think he's confused. I don't think he knows what he wants to do.
Asking about the underground bases earlier on, do we know how many underground bases are around North America? And if so, how they were built?
Which? Alien?
Yes, alien bases, like the one near Canada.
I don't know. Well, there's been up in Washington State, there was humming heard coming from the underground areas in Washington State, wasn't there? Back in the, what was that? Back in the 80s? That was back in the 80s. Where those humming and buzzing noises sounded like machines were operating from underground, and nobody knew what they were. Well, there you go.
There's also been that humming north of me as well, in a town called Vanderhoof.
Yeah, then there could be something there. Sure.
What do you think that humming is? Do you believe it's alien? Do you think they're drilling underworld caverns to expand their bases, or do you think it's more like tectonic plates that are shifting around?
Tectonic plates, wouldn't, to my knowledge, don't cause humming.
Trip has a question. He is asking, since Robert Bigelow has MUFON, is he using off-planet knowledge, or is MUFON holding back any type of investigation because sometimes their information just isn't that clear?
I don't have any idea how MUFON operates, and I don't know what Bigelow does with MUFON. I don't track Bigelow. I know he wanted to buy the Stardust Ranch a couple of times, and somehow that fell through.
Let's ask you a couple questions about the moon. Do you believe the story that Neil Armstrong said on the emergency line? They are here, they are on the hill, and they are watching us.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
So do you think then that's maybe why we haven't gone back to the moon, is because we were told not to?
No, I don't think it's anything like that.
What would be your reasoning then?
I don't have an answer for that one.
Mm-hmm. It still seems strange that we've never gone back.
Well, it takes money.
Takes money for everything.
The fact is that the Orion The Orion program is supposed to be designed to go to the moon.
And to Mars as well, is it not?
Right.
Were you surprised when that whole Mars program that they were taking names for a couple of years and whittling people down, are you surprised that it fell apart?
I didn't know that, no. I know they just chose, 12 astronauts for the astronaut program?
Mm-hmm. Let's get to a question from Everett here. He says, we have talked a lot about aliens being here, but what is your view on the secret space programs and whether or not humans have bases now on places such as the moon or Mars?
My personal opinion is that it's a lot of hocus pocus exopolitics trying to sell the bridge. What is it? The bridge, or sell your bridge, or sell you some bridge in some foreign country and then see if you buy it. I think it's just a lot of hocus pocus. I think it's nonsense because the basis in which their books are these books on these space fleets based on the Biefeld-Brown effect, which, as we said before many times, won't work in outer space. It's an ion wind effect. It will not work in outer space.
Eric is asking, what do you think, Robert, of the Gordon Cooper claim that he filmed a disc-shaped craft landing?
It sounds credible to me.
Would you trust an astronaut's word on that?
I saw the interview they did with him. It sounds credible to me. I'd take his word for it.
Are you surprised that when we've had astronauts and NASA people alike, whether we're talking, Edgar Mitchell, Gordon Cooper, even down to Ken Johnson and others who have come out and stated openly that NASA is covering up the whole extraterrestrial phenomena, that aliens have watched in UFOs every launch that we've ever put into space? What is your opinion on NASA really denying all of this, and in the most part, the press denying from some pretty smart individuals that this is actually happening?
Well, it's what we talked about before. I said they're gonna do handstands to keep this stuff covered up for all the reasons we know about.
Mm-hmm. Are you surprised, though, that more NASA astronauts have not come out, but even the ones who have come out rarely get the press? I know they've been on Larry King, okay? Larry King loves these topics. But it just seems like, if the NASA pilots or astronauts are the best of the best out there, you would think that if they come back saying, hey, we had a UFO, follow us up into the stratosphere or wherever we're going, that would hold some sort of credibility in regards to it. I mean, when you have a man who walked on the moon like the late Dr. Edgar Mitchell, you think that would have some pull rather than just on the paranormal or UFO circuit.
Yeah, sure. But I don't have any answer for that. I really don't. I'm not a mind reader. I cannot read the minds of these people unless they happen to talk to me, and I have not talked to them.
Is it something that through time you've just kind of waved your hand at, saying, well, this is just a useless track to go down, or road to go down, because they're not going to give the credibility or the time of day regarding it anyway, so why worry about it?
Yeah, and I pursue places and people that I think are going to make a contribution to what we need to know.
Claudia has a question.
And,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay.
No, please finish. Okay, Joyce has a question here. Joyce is asking, do you think that aliens want to have their existence acknowledged by humans?
Given what's happening out west and with all the sightings and all the video, that's exactly what they're looking for.
So why do you think the aliens, and this could be a hypothetical question, why do you think that they want to acknowledge that they are here? And why do you think they're being stifled?
It's a goal. It's I guess they think that if they get cooperation, they'll establish they'll get the trust with the population, and they're if they didn't want something, they wouldn't be here. Obviously, they want something. What it is, I don't know exactly. It could be they're looking for genetic material. I don't know.
Let's get to Claudia's question. She is asking, Robert, what do you know about our space travel program? Or do you think we are already making contact in space with aliens or other planets? Do you think maybe Hubble or some of these satellites have images of life on other planets?
Well, you see what went on when the UFOs are around the ISS. They try to hush it up and keep and cut off the feed. They cut off the feed and hush up the event. So obviously, we're not making contact, and we're not telling the public what we're doing.
How do you feel about the fact that one day aliens just may say, we've had enough, and here we go?
Yeah, that's your White House.
Does it have to happen in America in order to get full disclosure? Like, what if it happened in Canada, Mexico, Spain, Australia?
Could be. I don't know. As far as things that could happen, it's just speculation. I don't have answers for those things.
When you're writing a book in regards to this subject, how do you pick your topics?
Because those are the prime topics that are covered in many other books, and I just happened to pick those topics. I can't explain how that was done. That was this book has been through multiple editions. It's been upgraded, revised, improved, and turned into a Kindle, and then the Kindle's been updated. So it's been through multi-stages of improvements over the years, and you're talking it was the first edition came out in 2005. So now we're in the Kindle edition with the third edition and revision number 1, 2, 3, 4, and it just got updated again with FOIA. So it's a process. It's a long process that this book has been through. I don't do multiple books. I do one book and I update it.
So when you are updating your book and you're going through FOIA, how easy or difficult is it to get information that you require from the Freedom of Information?
We talked about Tim Cooper and the problems he is having at the CIA, and the documents are there. I just can't get them released.
Has any UFO information ever been found on Freedom of Information Act?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's been a ton of... Bob Wood has a lot of it. And so it's all in the MJ-12 documents.
When you are writing your extensions onto your book, as you say, it keeps on going and going. It's a never-ending story here, which is kind of cool, to be honest with you. How do you stop from repeating yourself? Because there is so much repetitive information in this field.
Because everything that's revised the book is new. It's not repetitions of anybody else's information. It's information I have, that I found, or my sources have found. And it keeps updating the book.
There's a lot of speculation that a lot of these ships that people are seeing are in some sort of holographic or interdimensional form. Do you believe that to be true, or do you believe that it's just people trying to decipher answers into what they are seeing?
No, they appear to be multidimensional, but they're not. These UFOs are right over our head right now. All over the country, all over all parts of the world. But you can't see them. They're stealthy, and when they come out, you know they're there. Anytime in my house, I walk outside, tomorrow I can do this tomorrow. Go outside if it's a clear day, and shoot a certain area of the sky. I shoot, and UFOs will show up. And they show up each and every time I do it. Mm-hmm. So each time I go outside, I can shoot UFOs over this house. So they're there. You just can't see them. But they come out for the camera.
Do you believe, then, that there are actual people out there who have the ability to summon UFOs?
Well, it's not, in my case, it's not summing. Is I got something in my right hand which tells them I'm here.
What's in your right hand?
It's a little thing I got back in January 2011 called an implant.
Gotta love those.
It's been there for 6 years. Yeah. I keep it because it's something to play with and learn how to use it.
Is it one of those implants that moves on you?
No, this one doesn't move. It stays where it's at. It hums. It does hum though, but it stays where it's at. And it's not an EMF. It doesn't. There's no detectable EMF signal coming from it.
I'm implanted as well in the back of my head. And usually when I start talking about it, it starts to vibrate. It feels kind of cool when it does. It's weird. It's almost like it likes to be acknowledged, as strange as that sounds.
Yeah, well, this thing buzzes in my hand, but I mean, I don't really pay attention to it too much. Fact is, most of the time I don't even know it's there.
Claudia has a question for you. She is asking, she is wondering if aliens and their ships shown to us in holographic form, and wondering if they, as in the government, know how to do this. What do you think about that idea?
No, I don't think the government knows how to do that. We don't have that kind of technology, or we wouldn't waste our time on rocket programs.
Eric is asking, do you think that the UFO aliens are a modern version, of the Middle Ages, or where we were in the past, what we are seeing today?
Say that again?
What we are seeing today with UFOs and aliens, do you think they are a modern version of the Middle Ages? Like a lot of... Let me... Eric, I'm not getting your question here. That's what happens when you read the questions cold. Do you believe they are a future of us, or do you believe that they are an entire different species?
Oh, entirely different. Yeah. From what I've seen, that if you look at the Eisenhower, there's a good Eisenhower, the EBD, the Eisenhower briefing document. You've heard of it, right?
Yes.
Okay. If you look on the I forgot what page it is on the physical description. I said the initial autopsy results. They have two eyes, 2 ears, a nose, and a mouth, 2 legs, and an arm. But that's as far as it goes. Their internal biological evolution, their internal organs are completely different than ours is. So we didn't come from the same species. They're two different. We're 2 different species, and they're very, as far as the concern, the 2 arms, 2 legs, as far as it goes. The rest of it is alien. You got to remember that it's alien.
Do you think then
and
that...
it acts and behaves very different than humans? It's alien. Anytime you ever get ready to think you're going to meet one of these things, remember it's alien. It doesn't act like us.
All right, I misinterpreted Eric's question. He's saying what he's asking is if the stories people told in the Middle Ages about fairies and the like in the past were their attempt to describe extraterrestrials.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure.
Do you believe then that we have time traveled?
We can do time travel to the past, but we can't change it.
Oh, now you got me intrigued.
I don't know about. The new physics. The new physics says we can do time travel to the past, but we can't change the events.
Do you think we've already been there? Because there are people, whether some think he's a wingnut or not, like Andrew Bashago, who believes that he was a child chrononaut.
Well, I can't do anything about that.
But do you believe that we have, though, Robert?
That we have what?
Time traveled.
As I say, we can do time travel. We just can't change the past. We cannot affect the past. You can't change it. That's been proven in a scientific way, argued, and it's argued that way too. You can go to the past, but you can't change it.
Where are we setting this up? Is if it's happening now, is it set up somewhere in Area 51 where we're sending people in the past just to check it out?
I don't have any knowledge of that. All I know is what the theory says.
BTO is asking, what is your perspective regarding the current state of exopolitics?
I don't know. I don't get involved in that.
How come?
Because I don't have any interest in exopolitics.
Joyce is asking, some people have suggested that aliens are future human time travelers coming back to see us. Do you think that's out of the realm of possibility, if we can travel back?
And then their anatomy shouldn't be alien.
Or is that just an advanced version of us? if it's, say, from 2,000-3,000 years from now?
Well, I don't know. Going back 300 to 300,000 years, humans still had human anatomy.
That is true. That is true. Ron has a question here. When people are seeing extraterrestrials, are they just seeing the spacesuit? Is there something underneath what the classic gray would look at? What's your opinion on that?
Say that again?
Are the aliens wearing spacesuits, or is that their actual structure?
Oh no, they were. That's their actual structure. They were tights, very tight-fitting uniforms.
I remember when I woke up on my abduction table when I got implanted in the back of my head. I remember seeing the hands. I remember feeling the hands. I remember seeing the heads, but they had this blackish silver suit on. In your talking with a lot of ET contactees or abductees, is it relatively the same story all the time?
Yeah, basically, except your story. You can look at that photo I just sent you.
I did look at the photo. That one looks much more menacing than what I saw.
But the same height, same build?
Kind of the same build, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a species that isn't reported too often in abductions.
Claudia is wondering if you have information that you will never share publicly due to your own protection.
No, I have no secrets here.
Right. Trip is asking, do you think off-planeters use some sort of cryogenics when they travel light years to get here?
No, because they can do at warp speed, which we're talking Star Trek stuff. At warp speed, you can get to a star system in a matter of weeks. It doesn't take hundreds of years. You're talking moving at many hundreds and thousands of times faster than the speed of light.
Do you believe in
that's what the if they can get a functioning reverse engineered craft working right, it will be able to move at warp speed. In other words, it has warp drive. Anti-gravity will give you warp drive.
Eric is
and
asked...
If you got...
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Eric is asking, what is your opinion then on the whole ancient alien theory?
I guess it seems a lot of it's probably true, I would imagine.
What leads you to believe that it's true?
Because the events back then are consistent with what's going on today. The sighting events and descriptions are pretty. In fact, what is it? The Egyptian hieroglyphics. If you look at some of the figures in those pictures on those tombs in the Egyptian tombs, you'll see a lot of them look like the big bug-eyed critters we see today. Same thing, same identical.
Eric is asking, how do you think they get past the relativistic effects of faster than light travel?
That's because you're moving in a warp bubble. It's called the Alcubierre warp drive, and you can look that up on the internet. And it comes from general relativity, and Einstein's general relativity, and Alcubierre developed it into took general relativity and created that warp drive concept from general relativity. So that you can, if you can create and control anti-gravity, you can move a ship at many hundreds and thousands of times faster than the speed of light, and you'll get there just like you do in Star Trek.
I believe that. I do believe that you would get that the stars aligning and becoming just this big white tunnel. That would be interesting to see. That is for sure.
No, the negative energy creates the warp bubble. Anti-gravity is negative energy. It bends space-time. It folds it inside out. It's different. It has the opposite curvature of gravity. It bends space-time inside out, and that creates a warp bubble. And inside this warp bubble, the warp bubble itself moves at many hundreds and thousands of times faster than the speed of light. But the ship inside the warp bubble stays stationary. So the field around the craft is what moves you at many hundreds and thousands of times faster than the speed of light. But your craft itself stays stationary inside the bubble.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe, or what is your opinion on how far away we are on this planet from finally getting to that point where we will have an understanding of that type of technology to use it for our own benefit?
We just talked about all that before, remember?
Well, I understand that.
Yeah, we talked about all that before. About getting, cooperation and opening up programs and getting rid of the secrecy and, putting all these hundreds and thousands of people to work and, scientific minds to participate in this big, huge project. It would probably be as big as the Manhattan Project to get something that functions and works and moves at warp speed.
Eric Cooper wants to know, do you think the aliens are using wormholes in order to get here?
Yeah, sure. That's negative energy, too. It takes negative energy to open up a wormhole.
Well, my friend, we're at that time. We are at that time. Would you love to tell our listeners where they can find your book?
It's up on Amazon. It's called Exempt from Disclosure. And it's been radically updated and improved from what it was. But as I said, Dave, it's only one book, and it's the only book that's going to be there. And so I'm not into publishing multiple books, just one book. And as I said, it's radically improved and updated, and it's even cheaper than it used to be.
All right, thank you so much. You can find that on Amazon, on Kindle, everywhere. Robert Collins, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. What a pleasure to have you on the air with us. If you're listening in on the Spaced Out Radio side, you hear Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking away to Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official sound of Spaced Out Radio. Tomorrow night and Sunday, we have James Tyson and Elizabeth Anglin in from Spaced Out Weekend. They start at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. I'm about to go. I got my bag packed right beside me in the cabin. I'm heading off into the wilderness to find my Zen, my Chi, and on Sunday I'm going Bigfoot hunting. I got to find it. They're in the hills here of central British Columbia, and I'm going looking. If you want to join me, come on up. We have room in the back seat of the truck. Want to say thank you to everyone listening in on WQEE, on Revolution Radio, KTLK, Renegade Talk Radio, and the United Public Radio Network, and especially all of you who have taken part in the chat rooms. I will be on with Eric Cooper on S4 at midnight Pacific tomorrow night for a roundtable discussion, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you take part as well. Come on into that show after Spaced Out Weekend with James Tyson. And together, let's get together. Let's have a party. And together, let's own the night. Help spread the word. We'll talk to you fully on Monday with the reporters. Have a good weekend, everyone. Good night.